I have been very defensive of Robert Mueller from day one, even up until as recently as a week ago. But he hired some people that have terrible bias. And he didn't have to. There are plenty of women and men who don't contribute to political campaigns. There are plenty of prosecutors he could have hired. So at some point, Bob Mueller is going to have to explain, how did he vet these prosecutors and agents? How did these folks slip by? Because what's going to happen, Martha, is if he decides to do something to the Trump campaign or prosecute President Trump, Republicans have a built-in argument for bias, that the fix was in from day one.
Congressman Trey Gowdy calling out conflicts of interest in Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia probe into President Trump. Joining me now, former FBI Assistant Director Jim Kallstrom. Jim, we love having you on the show. Here's the thing. Can FBI agents check their politics at the door? I mean, do you believe FBI agent Peter Strzok was taking active measures to stop Trump from winning and measures to help Hillary Clinton?
Yes, I do. And I've come to that conclusion after reading these text messages. Now, people send text messages, I realize that, but the depth and scope and just nasty hatred that was expressed in those messages. You know, this Lone Ranger riding to the rescue of America. I mean, nothing could be further from the truth. Obama went a long way to destroying this nation, in my view. The economy, he doubled the debt, he screwed up the military. He had the FBI become extremely politically correct, and never mind the foreign policy disasters, giving $150 billion to Iran. And here's this so-called Lone Ranger, you know, riding in to save the country. I mean, it's just outrageous. You know, I've talked to some legal minds recently here, and I think a good an investigation would bring a strong obstruction of justice case against him and many others. I think this is a cabal. I think it's a conspiracy. That whole thing, that dossier is BS. And if they took that to the FISA court and knew it was BS, then they're in a lot of trouble. And if they didn't know it was BS, then they're totally incompetent. But let me say something. It's not the FBI agents. You know, 99.9% of the people in the FBI are honorable, patriots,
that's the whole point
helping the United States, helping the people of this great country. And how big this cabal is, I don't know if it's 8 people or 20 people, but it's a small number. You know, and they have a number of people in the Justice Department. You know, that's the wife of the guy in the Justice Department on a shortwave radio talking over there to this guy over in Great Britain. What a disgrace.
And part of the action
this thing is an absolute
to cover it up and obstruct
fraud.
To make sure that,
you know, and the Attorney General of the United States should either resign or should do something about it.
Jim, we had one text from Peter Strzok to his colleague Lisa Page in August of 2016. It reads, quote, "I want to believe the path that you threw out for consideration in Andy McCabe's office, that there's no way Trump gets elected, but I'm afraid we cannot take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you died before you're 40. And then Lisa Page also texted Peter Strzok saying, maybe you're meant to stay where you are because you're meant to protect the country from that menace, Donald Trump. And then Peter Strzok said, I can protect our country at many levels. What can an FBI official, an FBI agent do to stop a president from getting elected?
But I want to focus on one in particular.
Well, I think he can do what this guy tried to do. He can fabricate things. He can make up stuff. He can lie. He can be a total moron. He can recruit others. You know, he belongs in Leavenworth, this guy, in my personal view. I don't have all the facts, but from what I know, he belongs behind bars, this guy. You know, these things cannot happen in a democracy, particularly in the FBI. But it's not the FBI. I beg the American people, don't condemn the FBI. Condemn these people that have went way off the rails here. And, you know, need to be dealt with severely, in my view.
Yeah, the FBI has been catching the bad guys forever. I mean, they're the federal cops to protect the system. This guy, Peter Strzok, is still in HR. And Alan Dershowitz, the lawyer, says he would like to see a nonpartisan commission to look into Mueller's team. Is that a good idea, or do you think they should shut Mueller's investigation down?
That this guy had a hand in writing.
Very, very disappointed in Bob Mueller. I mean, I've known him a long, long time. I was on his advisory board for almost a whole decade. You know, and I don't know if he's a subject of the Stockholm Syndrome with President Obama or what, but he is so far out of line here with the people he hired, particularly that mad dog, the junkyard dog guy that's his deputy. They went into Paul Manafort's house at 4 o'clock in the morning and dragged the wife out of bed. What an outrage. What a disgrace. He should be charged with crimes, civil rights crimes just for what he did there. And it's an outrage. And Mueller should have never accepted this position. I mean, it clearly says in the enabling legislation that you cannot, have a bias towards anything. Well, he's got a conflict of interest as wide and as long as the Jersey Turnpike. And so number one, he was wrong in doing it. The Deputy Attorney General was totally wrong and irresponsible in appointing him. And the whole bunch of them, those two questions. If the answer is yes,
thing, and we need to find out what the heck that is.
So quickly, you're saying Robert Mueller's conflict is his friendship with James Comey. Is that what you're referring to?
Or if you took the dossier, dressed it all up, took it to the FISA court, and used that as the basis to get warrants.
Okay.
He's a lawyer. He knows what the legislation says. He knows he has a conflict of interest as wide as any conflict of interest ever.
Where Mr. Strzok says,
so, I mean,
I can protect our country at many levels. Says it with all the humility he could muster.
Jim Councilman, we love having you on the show. Come back soon. And thank you for your service to our country,
He was Super Agent James Bond at the FBI. This is obvious. I'm afraid we can't take that risk. We can't. There's no way we can let the American people make Donald Trump the next president. I got to protect our country. This is unbelievable.
Now, I'm letting these clips play on because most of you were at work while this hearing was taking place. I think this is a very, very important hearing. I think it's a very important hearing because they are trying to expose the partisanship, the poisonous environment that is taking place here, that exists here, how political it is. And it's very, very important in a republic that this sort of thing be uncovered because Mueller's just marching ahead with his group of leftists. Now, there's another chunk here I want to play of Jim Jordan, Mr. Producer. Let's go to cut 14. Go.
And I'm here to tell you, Mr. Rosenstein, I think the public trust in this whole thing is gone. So it seems to me you got two things you can do. You're the guy in charge. You're the guy who picked Mueller. You're the guy who wrote the memo saying why he needed to fire Comey. You're the guy in charge. You could disband the Mueller special prosecutor, and you can do what we've all called for. Appoint a second special counsel to look into this, to look into Peter Strzok, Bruce Orr, everything else we've learned in the last several weeks.
Yes, Congressman, and I can assure you that I consider it very important to make sure the thorough review is done, and our Inspector General is doing a thorough review. That's how we found those text messages as part of that review.
You've given that answer like 15 times. Let me ask you this. Are you concerned? I mean, this is what a lot of Americans are believing right now, and I certainly do, that the Comey FBI and the Obama Justice Department worked with one campaign to go after the other campaign. That's what everything points to. Think about what we've learned in the last several weeks. We first learned they paid for the dossier. Then we learned about Peter Strzok. And last week we learned about Bruce Orr and his wife, Nellie. I mean, this is unbelievable. So what's it going to take to get a second special counsel to answer these questions and find out, was Peter Strzok really up to what I think he was?
I think it's important to understand, Congressman, we have an Inspector General who has 500 employees and a $100 million budget. And this is what he does. He investigates allegations of misconduct involving department employees. That review that he is conducting is what turned up those text messages. It will also involve interviews of those persons and of other witnesses.
Mm-hmm. So he's it's like for the Senate, it's the Senate Ethics Committee, you know. So we'll wait for the Inspector General. Now, just so you folks understand something, as Mr. Rosenstein is the Deputy Attorney General, he doesn't have to wait for the Inspector General. He can appoint a special counsel if he chooses. And there's somebody else who has the power to appoint a special counsel through this process. You know who that is, Mr. Producer? The Attorney General of the United States. He's not recused from everything. This is tangentially related to Russia, but the substance is corruption at the highest levels of the FBI and in some aspects of the Special Counsel's Office and the Department of Justice. Sounds to me like a perfectly legitimate use of a special counsel. And I have a few that I would suggest we point. We could point Joe DeGeneva, somebody like that. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Tomorrow, this body is going to be looking at a resolution supporting the public display of the Ten Commandments.
Listen carefully.
A very interesting case in the state of Alabama where Judge Roy Moore, who presides over a circuit court, this courtroom, a wood-carved plaque containing the Ten Commandments. Challenged by a judge to take those down. The governor of Alabama, Fob James, has stated that he will do whatever it takes to keep the Ten Commandments up in that courtroom, including calling in the National Guard. It is sure to be an entertaining debate tomorrow and very interesting, and I believe a very important debate. But sadly, the entertainment is going to come from those people who will floor to try to twist history, try to continue the revision of history that would separate the country from its heritage. We have a very proud heritage of freedom in this country.
You know who that was, ladies and gentlemen? Way back, March 3rd, 1997. A backbencher congressman by the name of Joe Scarborough, defending Roy Moore, defending the state of Alabama, defending the display of the Ten Commandments in the state courthouse. Chew on that one. I'll be right back.
Versus left is right versus wrong. Call Mark at 877-381-3811.
Charles Barkley, ladies and gentlemen, says Democrats have basically taken advantage of blacks. And so what did he do? He supported a Democrat in Alabama. There you go. What do I know? Yes, that was Joe Scarborough, right, Mr. Producer? And I want to give a hat tip to my buddy Steve Dace, who dug that up. From 20 years ago, Joe Scarborough, before he was seeking fame and fortune at MSLSD as a left-wing kook sellout, he came to the strong defense of Roy Moore, came to the strong defense of the Ten Commandments in the courthouse, came to the strong defense of Roy Moore challenging a federal judge, and went to the floor of the House to say so. Would you like to listen to that again for some fun entertainment? Turn up your volume. Go ahead, Mr. Producer.
Tomorrow, this body is going to be looking at a resolution supporting the public display of the Ten Commandments. And it's been a very interesting case in the state of Alabama where Judge Roy Moore, who presides over a circuit court, this courtroom, a wood-carved plaque containing the Ten Commandments. Challenged by a judge to take those down. The governor of Alabama, Fob James, has stated that he will do whatever it takes to keep the Ten Commandments up in that courtroom, including calling in the National Guard. It is sure to be an entertaining debate tomorrow and very interesting, and I believe a very important debate. But sadly, the entertainment is going to come from those people who will floor to try to twist history, try to continue the revision of history that would separate the country from its heritage. We have a very proud heritage of freedom in this country.
Mm-hmm. We do, Joe. What happened to this guy? Bang his head too many times? Now, there have been some people, lawyers, writing at these pseudo-conservative sites who condemn Roy Moore for the stance he took on the Ten Commandments, for the fact that he should have obeyed a federal court order insisting that they remove the Ten Commandments. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? Well, no, Mark, he has to follow a federal court order. Does the Constitution compel the removal of the Ten Commandments from a state courthouse on any level? Separation of church and state. Right. Well, that's not in the Constitution. That was a concoction, a fiction that came out of the court in the 1940s for the purpose of discriminating against little Catholic kids when the buses would go and pass the bus stops. Oh, yeah. The case is called Everson. Now, some people will read that and say, wait a minute, the court said that those kids could be picked up. That's not the point. Hugo Black was a Klansman in Alabama, appointed by FDR. Isn't it funny how things change? Confirmed by the Democrats. Hailed by liberal media, including the New York Slimes, over all the decades that he was on the bench. He switched his vote, moved to the majority so he could write the opinion, but his purpose was to attack the church, the Catholic Church. See, they're of flesh and blood. That he'll never get the Roy Moore treatment, even though Roy Moore was never a representative of the Ku Klux Klan. I'm not defending, I'm not a special pleader here, I'm just explaining who gets the right history and who doesn't. Who we can call angels and who we have to call devils. So we have some modern lawyers today who are totally unencumbered with the history of the court, the history of a lot of these cases. They read them in a sterile room with a sterile mind, and they think Roy Moore is an absolute nut. Roy Moore has said things about gays and so forth that I absolutely reject. But I'm talking about this point. This point. So a federal court orders a state court to remove the Ten Commandments from the state courthouse. Here's my second question. Not only where is this compelled by the Constitution, but where does a federal court get off telling a state court that it must remove the Ten Commandments from the state courthouse? Then here's my third point. Those Ten Commandments, Moses himself carved into the Supreme Court building. The Supreme Court of the United States, the federal Supreme Court. They haven't chiseled them off. They haven't done any of that sort of ISIS stuff. They're not pulling down statues or any of the other stuff that the left likes to do. No. They're still there. How can it be that a state court has the Ten Commandments in their courthouse, and that's unconstitutional, but the Supreme Court has the Ten Commandments chiseled into its building, and that's not unconstitutional? In fact, how can it be that any of it's unconstitutional? Well, you see, you're not allowed to have two sides in this, or more, according to some of the genius writers. And they know who they are. Oh, what do you mean? You got to by a federal order. Yeah, sure. Well, I want to know where the federal judiciary gets the authority to do this. Judicial review. I said I want to know where the federal judiciary gets the authority to do this. Can't just throw around the term judicial review. I happen to agree as a matter of constitutional law, federal constitutional law, not Supreme Court precedent as a result of Hugo Black, but federal constitutional law, that Roy Moore was right. There is no federal constitutional basis for forcing the removal of the Ten Commandments from a courthouse, or a federal court forcing a state court to remove the Ten Commandments from the state courthouse. And, of course, the absolute inconsistency, insanity, when the highest federal court has the Ten Commandments chiseled into its building. You know, there's 1 week left for Chamonix's Christmas and holiday sale, and the countdown continues. Introducing the brand new Genucel treatment for droopy eyelids. Now, here's Mary from Fort Collins, Colorado. I don't believe everything I hear. So I tried this eye lift on my right eye. The next day at work, everybody said my right eye looked better. I couldn't believe it. Yes, all the saggy lines on your eyelids disappear. Best of all, this breakthrough eyelid treatment is yours free with your order of Genucel for bags and puffiness. Plus, you'll also get Genucel immediate effects for 12-hour results. Go to Genicel.com, that's Genicel.com, or call 800-SKIN-604, 800-SKIN-604. Gets better, you know. If you order in the next 20 minutes, you'll get 2 more classics, Esotique RF Collagen Builder and Deep Firming Serum, free. I sure hope my buddy Teddy's listening. Call or click in the next 10 minutes to get the Lason's Neck Treatment and Express Shipping free with guaranteed Christmas delivery. You got to act quickly. Order now to get 6 free gifts, 800-SKIN-604. Supplies are limited and going fast. So I say 800-SKIN-604, 800-SKIN-604, or go to Genicel.com. You know, ladies and gentlemen, as a side point, there's nothing more monotonous, pathetic, and outrageous than some clown getting behind a microphone trying to lecture you about faith in God when that clown has no knowledge, no profound knowledge, no unique knowledge about faith or God. In my humble opinion, just my opinion. Can you think of anything more boring, Mr. Producer? I can't. A Jimmy Swaggart wannabe? A Jimmy Swaggart wannabe. Thinks people give a damn about what he has to say. Give a damn about what he has to say. I make a prediction. In a year, 2 years, or whatever, that slob won't even be on the radio. Just a guess. My guess is he can't hold an audience. I don't know. I could be wrong. Weirder things have happened. Weirder things have happened. All right, let's take some calls here. Let's see here. John, San Antonio, Texas, Sirius Satellite. Go.
Hey, Mark. Listen, I am glad to hear that the Republican leadership has helped deliver this tremendous victory down in Alabama. And I guess I'm just concerned about it as a conservative because I don't know how many more of these victories that we could stand.
Yeah, great point. Well, sir, you must be a reprobate. You must be a Christian who has rejected your religion. You, sir, must be a phony conservative who believes in situational morality and ethics. There must be something fundamentally wrong with you, mentally and in every way, John.
Yeah, I don't have any teeth, and I shop at Walmart, and I'm just like about 60% of this country. And, you know, we've delivered to Mitch McConnell and his ilk tremendous opportunity, and they're squandering it. And I no longer consider him. I worked for Reagan when he ran, and I voted for every one of these empty suits that they've pushed forward as a Republican candidate since then. And I've gotten to the point now where I watch this Senate and this House with a Republican president. We got everything that we've ever wanted, and they get nothing done. And I can guarantee you, and you know this is true, if the Democrats had this, they get so much done.
All they need is one vote majority. That's all they need, right? And if it was 50-49, say there's a vacancy or whatever, or 50-50 and they had the vice presidency, they'd be ramming through everything. Well, I just heard tonight, sir, that they have come up with a agreement, the House and Senate, on taxes. I hope it's a good one.
Well, who knows? Who knows what we're going to see? You know, these guys.
And by the way, let me comment on that. Can I comment on that with you briefly?
You bet.
You see, I have a different way of doing radio. I don't put on the pom-poms, and I'm not a rockhead. I see these tax bills that are being discussed, and I fight them. I fight them to make them better. I fight them to lower the top rate, not to increase it. I fight them to allow people to make deductions on their property taxes and that is their income taxes in the state level. I fight them to make these individual rate cuts across the board and as permanent as the corporate rate cuts. This is the only way that we can pressure them. I don't sit here and wave the Republican flag and say whatever they do is great when we're not even sure 100% when they're finished. It is the process that we have to participate in. That's when we have to raise these issues. I don't know what their little deal is, but I hope they've addressed every single thing that we on this program, I and you and my audience, have been discussing. You agree, John?
Absolutely. You know, it is. They've always, you know, I've always been taught that, you know, the whole process is compromise, and if everybody walks away not quite happy, but they feel like they got what they needed, that's democracy.
I just want to make sure we're happy.
Right.
All right, John. Excellent call. I appreciate it. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
This body is going to be looking at a resolution supporting the public display of the Ten Commandments. And it's been a very interesting case in the state of Alabama where Judge Roy Moore, who presides over a circuit court, this courtroom, a wood-carved plaque containing the Ten Commandments. Challenged by a judge to take those down. The governor of Alabama, Fob James, has stated that he will do whatever it takes to keep the Ten Commandments up in that courtroom, including calling in the National Guard. It is sure to be an entertaining debate tomorrow and very interesting, and I believe a very important debate. But sadly, the entertainment is going to come from those people who will claw to try to twist history, try to continue the revision of history that would separate the country from its heritage. You know, we have a very proud heritage of freedom in this country.
There you have it, the late, not great, Joe Scarborough. 20 years ago on the floor of the House of Representatives, defending Roy Moore, his position on the Ten Commandments, and so forth. By the way, let me address something else quickly. I see some of our some headlines on our friend Matt Drudge's homepage. Senate majority hangs by short hairs. Agenda on ropes. Now, folks, ever hear of Susan Collins? Ever hear of Lisa Murkowski? Ever hear of these liberal, progressive Republicans? Now, Roy Moore isn't the one that sunk Obamacare repeal. We've been having these short hair problems, the agenda on the ropes, as a result of progressive Republicans who are currently in the Senate, when we had 52 Republicans, a 2-vote majority or whatever it was. So the fact that they're down to 1, or whatever it is, it's not like things are going to change. It's not like things are going to change. You still have Susan Collins in there and Lisa Murkowski and so forth. You still have them in there. Are they fooling somebody here? They were pushing the agenda. Oh, pushing. We're going to get the wall. Going to get this. Now it's all screwed up. It was all screwed up. You know, thousands of people seeking home security get ripped off every day. You get locked into long-term contracts, stuck writing huge checks with no way out. It's robbery itself, and it can cost you thousands. Now, there's a smarter way to protect your home with Simply Safe Home Security. These are the guys I trust, and here's why. Simply Safe has no contracts. There's no commitment, no lock-ins, period. You can cancel anytime you want. Simply Safe was built by a Harvard-educated engineer to make home security effortless. And the system is wireless and portable with a cellular connection built right in. You get professional monitoring with police dispatch, so your home is safe around the clock. And with Simply Safe, 24/7 protection is just $15 a month. Most places charge 3 times that. It's unbeatable protection at a great value, and there are no contracts. Right now, you can get a special 10% discount when you go to simplysafemark.com and order today. That's simplysafemark.com for 10% off your home security. simplysafemark.com. You know, Mr. Producer, I was just thinking. Is Marco Rubio still around? We don't hear from Marco Rubio anymore. He used to text me. His people used to contact you. They don't want anything to do with us, do they? We had a great interview on Levin TV. You can even go online and see it. I don't even hear from my buddy Mike Lee anymore. Geez, I must really be kryptonite. Oh, well. That's the way the cookie crumbles. Senate majority hangs by short hairs. Yeah, let me tell you, the Senate majority always has. When you have liberals like Susan Collins and Murkowski and others who gutted the repeal of Obamacare. And they had their 2-vote majority, and they still gutted the repeal. And that's why the base is disgusted. They'll never understand it. The phony, the intellectuals, the pseudo-intellectuals among conservatives and Republicans, they'll never get it. Ladies and gentlemen, guess what? We've got a full hour left. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, everybody. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Few corrections in the media that I want to make. Number one, even Republicans keep saying, Ken Starr, when he was the independent counsel investigating Clinton's endless scandals, he kept expanding his investigation. That's actually not true. The person who kept expanding Ken Starr's mandate was Janet Reno. She didn't want to appoint new independent counsels, and she kept giving the stuff to Ken Starr. How do I know? Because I was there. I saw it. So Starr didn't keep expanding his authority. It was expanded for him, and basically he didn't even want it to be expanded. The second point is this. The establishers trying to create an argument by rewriting history about how challengers, we'd have more Republican senators but for the idiots who keep challenging these magnificent Republican incumbents. I just want you to remember, first of all, if Mitch McConnell has had his way, there would have been no Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, Rand Paul, Marco Rubio, and a host of others. There would have been some really lousy Republicans in the United States Senate. But they never talk about what they've done. Again, but for the Tea Party, but for the conservative movement, there wouldn't be a Republican House, Senate, or a Republican president, period. But they're dispiriting you. They're deflating you. Let me remind you of the 2006 midterm elections, because Mitch McConnell won't, and certainly Karl Rove, the so-called architect, who must have built the Leaning Tower of Pisa, they don't want you to remember it. It's only 11 years ago. It's only 11 years ago. How about you, Stephen Law? Another schmo. The Democrats gained 6 Senate seats. Remember, the president was George W. Bush. By defeating Republican senators in the states of Missouri, Montana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and Virginia. Okay? The Democrats gained 30 House seats from the Republicans. So with Rove in charge, the establishment fully in charge of the RNC, the White House, and the House and the Senate, they lost the House and the Senate in 2006. The Gingrich Revolution that gave us the House was no more. Was no more. For the first time since the midterm elections of 1994, the Gingrich Revolution, the Democrat Party gained control of both houses of the United States Congress when Karl Rove was the deputy chief of staff and all these never-Trumpers were working at the White House, starting at the top with George W. Bush. They lost the Congress. And, of course, Nancy Pelosi became the Speaker of the House, and Harry Reid became the leader of the Senate. That is what Karl Rove delivered. I don't know where he gets this reputation as this genius when it comes to elections. But he delivered the Democrats the House and the Senate in 2006. And it was the Tea Party that rose up that they hate and still hate, the remnants of which are still here. They gave them the House, the Senate, and the presidency. But they hate us. Don't forget this, 2006. 2006. Karl Rove, the architect. How come he's never asked about this? How come that never shows up on his resume when he's on TV telling us about how lousy conservatives are? Karl Rove, who was involved in Alabama in the Republican primary, trashing Mo Brooks to try and clear the way for a runoff between Roy Moore and Luther Strange. I hope you know what, Mr. Producer, we're going to play the first hour during the holidays again. Because at least on this program, we're not going to let the truth escape. The way in which the Washington establishment Republicans, led by McConnell, led by Rove, led by this guy Stephen Law. Who was the Ted Cruz guy? I forget his Jeff Rowe, led by that guy too. All a cabal, all got together. A cartel, if you will. Fat dopey guy keeps using that word. A cartel, if you will. That was used to meddle in the election in Alabama. Because they thought they could beat Roy Moore with Luther Strange. So they went out and tried to destroy Mo Brooks and defeated him. And by the way, we wish Mo Brooks well. He announced on the floor of the House today that he has prostate cancer. And let me add this. Senator McCain is in the hospital from side effects for the treatment of his brain cancer. And we wish him all the best, too. Anyway, 2006, those midterm elections, those are on the Bush people. Those are on the Never Trumpers. Those are on Karl Rove. Those are on Mitch McConnell. Because they want to keep, pointing, well, remember that race in Delaware that we should have won? And remember this one we should have won? They lost the entire House of Representatives. They lost the entire United States Senate. They want to talk about a race here and you remember this one over there and that one over there, and we would have won it with our great candidates. Well, you lost it, you jerks. You lost the House and the Senate and everything else. And then we came in. We won the governorships. We won state legislatures. We took the House. We took the Senate. We took the presidency. No thanks to Karl Rove. No thanks to Mitch McConnell. Hey, you know what we're doing here in the United States Senate? I'm going to tell you something here. We just lost the seat. I set the whole stage there in Alabama. Set the whole stage here in Alabama for Luther Strange. We love Luther Strange here in Capitol Hill because he was going to vote for me to be the majority leader. I poured everything I could into that state. Oh, yeah. I thought we could beat that Roy Moore, but he beat us. So we had to beat him again. Oh, yeah. And we took the moral high ground here. Oh, yeah, we're the moral high. We're all about morality up here in Capitol Hill. We're the United States Senate. Oh, yeah. All right. Let's hear from the people. Don't forget, we have two lines, one for regular Americans and one for liberals. 877-381-3811, regular Americans. 877-381-3811 for irregular Americans. Liberals. Let's go to Troy. Let's take a disagreeer. Frenchwood, Texas. Never heard of it. The great KTRH. How are you, Troy?
I'm wonderful, and it actually was started as a Quaker town. That's where the name comes from.
Really? Well, honestly, I don't even care. But anyway, go right ahead.
Well, a quick little note was funny is I used to be a conservative political writer for the Austin American Statesman, and the editor of the newspaper was Mark Levin. And ever since I first
wasn't me
on the radio, exactly. But I always because he was becoming an attorney, and he is very politically involved. But anyway,
it's an imposter.
There you go. Don't worry, he's conservative. But this election, I very much think does have something to do with Trump. I think there's already 2 gubernatorial races that have switched hands. And historically speaking, and it happened to Clinton.
What 2 gubernatorial races have switched hands? Seriously, I'm not familiar with it.
New Jersey and.
Oh, whoa. New Jersey was never going to go Republican. And in the case of Virginia, it didn't switch hands. And in fact, a gentleman who was very close to the Bush team and so forth, who's a very nice guy, by the way, was not considered a movement conservative. He ran, and he lost.
Okay. Well,
there goes my theory.
No, I swear I'm correct, but if you're correct, okay, I thought it was 2 governorships had already switched. If it's only 1, I apologize. But historically...
How long did you think we were going to hold on to the governorship in New Jersey?
About as long. I kind of figured it'd be as long as Texas.
No, really? Well, all right. You said you were a conservative, you moved to liberal. I get it now, but go right ahead.
No, I'm a very conservative liberal, conservative philosophies, like my house is paid off. I got bunches of money in the bank.
You're a conservative liberal. Are you a classical? I'm totally confounded.
Well, no, I mean, I very much have liberal ideology, but I live.
You have a liberal ideology for all of us, but a conservative one for yourself. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm saying, I believe in no debt. I believe in family.
You believe in no debt?
My very first.
Do you have a mortgage?
First wife.
Hello.
No, it's paid off.
What about your first wife?
I'm still married to my very first wife.
Oh, okay. But what does that have to do with no debt? Sir, what are you trying to say tonight? Please help me.
Okay, anyway, I think this
You're in Frenchwood, Texas, a Quaker town. Go ahead.
Correct. I think this is 100% related to Trump. I think we've never had.
If Donald Trump were to run in Alabama, do you think he'd win?
Probably, but they still think marrying your cousin's okay for the most part.
Oh, aren't you nice? Aren't you nice? I see. How many teeth do you have?
They are. Where do they rank?
I see. So you're a liberal bigot. You don't mean you're a liberal. You're a liberal bigot.
No, I'm not a bigot.
Get off my phone, you jerk. I've spent enough time with you. Let's go to Eric, Los Angeles, California, on the Mark Levin app. Go.
Yes, I'm a first-time caller, Mark. Everything you're saying today gives cushion to my insistence that I've been telling people that the people are going to get fed up with the likes of McCain, McConnell, and Murkowski, and the others you mentioned, plus more that I could mention, that we need an alternative American party.
All right, sir, I hear this about once every other week. So which party do you want to start?
Well, an American party.
No, wait. What party do you want to start? What's the name of it?
Call it the American Party.
The American Party.
We are a one-party state.
You know, if you Google, there's 40 or 50 third parties in this country, right?
I don't care about them. They don't amount to a hill of beans, and you know that.
You're going to start your own, and that will amount to a hill of beans.
Well, if we get a party that's backing Trump.
Now, don't give me the we. Are you starting this party? I don't get it when people call me and they say, we need to this, we need to that, we need to this, and then they hang up and said, Esther, I'd like a little sponge cake, please. In other words, what are you doing about this third party stuff?
Well, right now, I've been talking to people about it, that we don't have...
Really? You got people walking down the street talking about hemorrhoids. What are you doing about it?
Well...
Nothing.
I do happen to be a book author, but I'm not plugging that. I'm not calling you to plug that.
Sir, none of that matters to me. I get people calling and say, I'm gay, and I say, well, why do you have to tell me that? I don't care. You're a book author. Good for you. Now, what are you going to do to start your third party, the American Party?
Well, we have to start organizing disaffected Democrats and Republicans.
What do you mean we? It's you who have to start organizing. What is this we stuff?
Who agree with me?
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Mark, you're so harsh. No, I'm not. I'm trying to talk sense into people. We need to start this means it's never going to get started. Right? We need to do this. We need to be on the radio. We need to write a book. We need to be on TV. Well, it doesn't happen that way, does it? Takes a courageous person doing something. But there are multitudes of third parties out there. Multitudes. And if you think all of a sudden most of the Republicans are going to move into this third party, you're wrong. Can anybody give me an example? We have a former president at the beginning of the last century who was enormously popular at one time, Theodore Roosevelt, a progressive nationalist Republican. And he had served almost 2 terms. He was sworn in after McKinley's assassination. And then Howard Taft was elected as vice president to the presidency, and he didn't like Taft much. He decided to form a third party, the Progressive Party. That's what it was called. Its nickname was Bull Moose. And he came in second, and he lost, and he elected Woodrow Wilson, president of the United States. Another progressive, but a different kind of progressive. And the modern Democrat Party was born with Woodrow Wilson. Hey, we need a third party. Hey, we need a third party. I'll stick with the Reagan position, which is no, we need to take over the Republican Party. And what's interesting about this is the old guard and the resistance. When you say you want to take over the Republican Party, and you see how these guys always lose. Look at Nevada. Look at Delaware. Look at this. They get blown out election after election if we don't come to their rescue. They're never held to account. They lie through their teeth about big stuff like repealing Obamacare and so forth and so on, and we're supposed to just take it. So we need to start a third party. Well, who is this we? We need to elect more conservatives, like Mo Brooks, to the United States Senate. Actually, what we really need to do, and what we are doing, is to endorse Convention of States and Article 5. And it is amazing to me how many pseudo-conservative and conservative outlets absolutely ignore the effort. They ignore it because you want to know why? They're very, very comfortable with big centralized government and a lame Republican Party. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Omaha, Nebraska, the great KOIL. Go.
Hey, Mark. Hey, I just want to say, I think right now establishment, so-called establishment, and the conservative Tea Party movement, they need to work together in choosing better candidates because not every candidate for Tea Party is going to be your Ted Cruz or your Mike Lee, and not, sometimes you're going to get stuck with a Roy Moore. And to be honest with you, Luther Strange...
Sir, we can't work together if they're attacking us. That's like saying when Reagan was trying to be the nominee, can't you work together with the Bush people? Can't you work together with the moderate elements within the Republican Party? No, he had to win. He had to defeat them. And it amazes me when people talk like this. And no offense, I'm just saying. Like if having a majority of constitutional conservatives who will actually try and turn this country around is extremist or an impossibility. We have a lot of red states in this country. Last time I checked, there were 30, give or take, in terms of the Trump victory in the Electoral College. Why is it okay that if we have a massive majority of nothing burgers, mashed potato heads, as opposed to people who have some principle? Why is it if you support liberty and the Constitution and capitalism and a nation state and a strong defense that you're just too right-wing and we can't have a majority, but we can have 5 of you maybe, 5 out of 100, but that's about it. Please. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin, making conservatism great.
great again. Dial in now. 877-381-3811.
I've noticed, maybe you have too, that hosts on TV and radio have really good hearing. I mean, other than my man Rush. But especially on TV, they have great hearing. The first hour I did this program was just repeated by somebody. I put out on Facebook and Twitter, I'd say fairly soon after the election, my comments about McConnell and what took place in a very truncated form. And then, of course, I've expanded on them here. The moment I did that, other people with very good eyesight read it and on cable TV, and they repeated it too, Mr. Producer. I'm trying to figure out how to monetize this. How do you monetize plagiarism? I'm not sure. And many of the people who do this talk about, the morality. Doing a lot of holiday shopping from your mobile device. Retailers expect 54% of holiday shoppers to visit their sites from mobile devices. Scammers see this as an opportunity to steal your credit card information and other personal data by distributing phony retail apps. Be cautious and only download apps from reputable app stores and read the reviews for any complaints about malware. 1 in 4 people have experienced identity theft, and if you're only monitoring your credit, your identity can still be stolen in ways you may not detect. Thieves could sell your information on the dark web or get an online payday loan in your name. LifeLock detects a wide range of identity threats. Now, if you have a problem, a U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but LifeLock can uncover threats that you might miss. Join now and get 10% off with promo code LEVIN. That's LEVIN. All you have to do is call 1-800-LifeLock or go to lifelock.com. Use promo code LEVIN. That's LEVIN, and you'll save 10% immediately. Well, let's see who else is out there. I will say this. I'm very, very concerned about the heavy losses the Republicans could take in the midterm elections. I think a lot of that is due, even though the effort now is to say it's Roy Moore, even though Roy Moore is defeated and Donald Trump and so forth. No, I think that the effort is due to the Republican majority in the House and the Senate. Even if we get a decent tax bill, and that's yet to be seen, that's one thing. Oh, Mark, we have limited majority. So what? You still have a majority. So what? All righty. Let's see. Let us go to Leon, Muscle Shoals, Alabama, on Sirius Satellite. Go.
Hey, Mark. I was wanting to just kind of address the Alabama Senate race from yesterday. At the end of the day, any Republican in the entire state of Alabama other than Roy Moore could have went up against Doug Jones and trounced him in the election. I was a Mo Brooks guy. I was disappointed that he didn't get the nomination. And I held my nose and voted for Moore just simply because I didn't want Jones in there, to be honest. And 100% of this lays at McConnell, at the feet of McConnell, at the feet of Jeff Flake, and at the feet of Richard Shelby, as well as the rest of the establishment Republicans who were calling for him to drop out and everything else after the allegations and stuff came out. And I have a firm belief that in the next.
Well, let me just slow down because you make a good point. Clearly, the Republican Party got what it wanted. Oh, and the Republican Party blew it from the beginning, as I've explained in exquisite detail with the McConnell antics, the money, not just him, Karl Rove, Stephen Law. What the hell is that other guy's name? And Jeff Rowe. They all went in there, and others, heavy duty, to try and get a face-off between Roy Moore and Luther Strange because they were afraid of Mo Brooks. They threatened Mo Brooks' own seat by putting up somebody to run against him in the primary in his House seat in Huntsville, Alabama. And they spent a fortune trying to recreate Mo Brooks into a liberal. It's really immoral, and it's really unethical when you have people like Karl Rove and Stephen Law and this guy Rowe, and then, of course, McConnell himself. They don't want to debate the issues. They just try and smear somebody like Mo Brooks. I was a Mo Brooks supporter, too. And in the end, I agree with you. In the end, I would have preferred Roy Moore to Doug Jones. And the reason is simple. I have a family. We have a country. We have a government that's out of control. We have great threats overseas, and the president needs the additional vote. I didn't create the Roy Moore scenario. Mitch McConnell created the Roy Moore scenario. The Republican establishment, by their arrogance and by their interference in the race in Alabama, created it. And I just want you to know, Leon, a lot of people apparently agree with me because they're now repeating it on TV. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, at the end of the day, I'll go ahead and make a solid prediction for 2018 that Jones will be replaced by whatever Republican candidate goes up. And
so you're saying the day he is sworn in, he's a lame duck?
Absolutely.
I agree with you because he's a real leftist. He's not a Southern Democrat. He's a Massachusetts Democrat.
Yeah, if he wants to save his seat, he better caucus with Republicans instead of the Democrats.
Well, they ain't.
Yeah, I know it's not going to happen, but at the end of the day, he'll be replaced, and because of his stance on the issue, Richard Shelby will be replaced as well. Because
I don't know. I looked; he got like 65% of the vote last time.
Yeah,
and everybody needs to know he used to be a Democrat, and then he converted to a Republican.
Yeah, but at the time of the last election, he didn't come out against someone who was running against a Democrat in Alabama either.
You mean before this election? There was another case?
No. No, before this election, there wasn't one, so that's the reason he pulled 55% of the vote.
I see. All right, Leon, you take care of yourself. Let us go to Steve, Kansas City, Kansas. The great KCMO. Steve, what the hell has happened to your football team?
It's not my football team. I'm a Bronco fan.
What the hell's happened to that team?
That's even worse.
I mean, you can't hide behind Denver.
No, not at all. Anyway, happy
it's too depressing.
Hanukkah.
Well, thank you. Thank you, sir.
And also, thank you for the education you give us every night and making your stuff readily available in the Mark Levin app.
You're very welcome. And I a long time ago, I decided to have as many open platforms as I can on many platforms. As an example, I'll let you speak in a minute. We have the Mark Levin app. We have the iHeartRadio app. We have our digital platforms. I'm on satellite radio on the Patriot Channel. I've been there for many, many years, and we much appreciate it. We're on AM and FM radio. And you can download us on your iPod. And people listen to us all the time. We're all over the place.
Yeah, and it lets us do that. People that actually have lives can get you no matter what.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway, yeah, and I may be comparing apples with oranges. I don't know, but I was watching the testimony today of the Assistant Attorney General,
the Deputy Rod Rosenstein.
Yes, and the thing about it that kind of struck me is when Jeff Sessions went to get confirmed before the Senate, they pressured him into recusing himself from anything Russia.
Mm-hmm.
But according to the assistant today, that he and Mueller are professionals and political bias doesn't play a part, and they have experience at managing people with different political views as agents and so forth and so on. So basically what he's saying is they have the ability to handle it. Sessions didn't.
No, that's an excellent point. And, of course, they're very good at praising themselves and their objectivity, aren't they?
It's arrogant.
And yet Mueller's activities demonstrate the opposite. His hiring demonstrates absolutely the opposite. He's supposed to be a special counsel, which means really independent from the administration, not in the constitutional legal sense, but really in the appearance sense. So people can say, well, it's not the administration investigating itself. There are a lot of people who debate whether that's legit or not, and I find it to be a great debate. But the point is, that's where we are, and he's done the opposite. He has basically created a criminal investigative unit within a Republican administration that is staffed with Democrats. In other words, you have a poison pill within an administration.
And some of the senators took him to task somewhat, but I wish they would have pushed it further, comparing it to that.
Well, I guess that's why I'm here and they're there, sir. All right. You take care of yourself. I appreciate it. let's continue. Let's travel the country. Well, you'd like to travel the country with me. Let's go to Ken in Detroit on the Mark Levin app. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm doing great, Mark. Great show as always. I just want to share with you a unfortunate observation that I keep seeing. Now, I happen to be a conservative, Bible-believing Christian, the same type of Christian that made it possible for the U.S. Constitution to be drawn up. And, Mark, what I continue to see from the Republicans and from many in the media that can identify themselves as being conservative is they hate people like me. They despise people like me. They want to criticize people like me. But then they want to turn around and ask me to vote for them in the next election. And I say to these people, if you're going to keep coming after people like me, don't think I'm going to be turning out to vote for you. And this is sad, Mark, because if they're going to be against those who drew up the Constitution, well, exactly what does that show that they really want today? Socialism.
Well, you make an interesting point, and I agree with you to this extent. Progressivism has as its purpose to force any competing elements, any competing ideas, any competing ideals out of the mindset of the society. And this is why you see on our college campuses today that the radical leftists, and these are radical progressives, are trying to silence conservatives, or even trying to silence liberal professors who just want to allow free speech. And this is how it works. This is why so many of our universities and colleges really are filled with tenured propagandists. And this is why you're not allowed to actually, when Gillibrand says something that's absolutely outrageous and you criticize her, and then you're a sexist. This is how they try and silence us. And they also try and change the language and the nomenclature. And I'll give you an idea. I thought you were going to bring this up. Let's take the Ten Commandments. So they say separation of church and state, which is not even a constitutional principle. It's imposed on us by a Supreme Court, 70-some years ago, particularly by a bigot on the Supreme Court. That language was used, not exactly, but close enough, by Jefferson in a letter when he was writing to the Danbury Baptists. But Thomas Jefferson didn't mean it in the constitutional sense. Thomas Jefferson was not at the Constitutional Convention to begin with. He was the main author of the Declaration of Independence. And yet people screw that up. But all that said, we have a situation in our country, Ken, where it is mandated, or has been mandated by the federal government, at least in the past, this idea where a men's room can be a girl's room and a girl's room can be a men's room and so forth and so on, that you self-identify on your genitalia. And, of course, nobody appears on the left to be concerned about the possibilities that perverts would have in mind. I'm being very honest about this. And yet that is kind of mandated in the public square, right? And yet when it comes to the Ten Commandments, the mandate is to get rid of them. And this is progressivism that's unleashed. You know, the Ten Commandments, these are fundamental laws. You don't even have to be religious to understand these are fundamental laws that undergird a civil society. They're the basic stuff that undergirds our criminal code, if you really think about it. But we're told you got to push it out because we don't want to offend and we're not going to establish a religion. How are you establishing a state religion? You're not establishing anything. You're just presenting people with the Ten Commandments. All right, Ken, I appreciate your call, my friend. Well, I got to take a break. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know, while major senior groups like the AARP lobby for liberal interests behind closed doors, it can feel as if the voices of mature conservatives in this country are unheard these days. Now, that's where AMAC comes in. AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. It's a conservative membership organization that I belong to, and it fights to protect your interests on Capitol Hill. Fighting to protect America, limit government, rein in excessive government spending, and uphold the traditional values of faith, family, and freedom, AMAC wants to bring back the America you love. AMAC members also have access to first-rate benefits, including special rates on car insurance and exclusive deals on cell phone service, car rentals, hotels, and more. With a strong presence in Washington, AMAC is focused on producing solutions rather than just rhetoric. AMAC does more than talk. AMAC takes action. I encourage you to join AMAC today. You can join online at amac.us. That's amac.us. Help bring our country back in the values upon which it was built. Just head over to amac.us and become an AMAC member today. AMAC, better for you and better for America. All right. Let's see here. We have a disagreeable. Jerry, Sterling, New Jersey, the great WABC. Go.
Mark, even though I'm politically opposite of you, I enjoy your show every night. Listen, I want to say if Mueller cast a net blindly at FBI headquarters and rounded up 50 people, 30 of them would be anti-Trump, because 50 to 60% of our population believes Trump's a liar.
Well, first of all, I don't know about that number, but so what? You don't know that to be true. And even if you have that belief and you're a prosecutor, an FBI agent, you keep it to yourself. You don't have 10,000 texts between you and your paramour while you're cheating on your wife on government time. And you're not sending texts back and forth with outrageous statements about a president. You need to have some judgment about a president who you are investigating or a candidate you are investigating one way or another. You ought to have enough sense to keep your mouth shut. Now listen, you're not talking to some schlub here. I worked at the Justice Department. I was chief of staff of the Justice Department to an Attorney General of the United States. The reason why political appointees are not FBI agents is for that very reason. And FBI agents, and I'm tired of FBI agents being put down by liberals who just, if you threw a net 30% of the FBI, I suggest to you that most of the FBI would actually support Trump and conservatives, not liberals. But that said, it doesn't matter. Their job is to do their job, and most of them do it. They're trained to do it, and they're professionals. And so when you have texts that reveal a very severe animus about a subject of an investigation or a potential target of an investigation, that's exactly why the Inspector General raised the question. You with me?
Yeah, but they threw the guy out. They fired him last summer.
Well, why didn't they tell Congress for months? And why was it the Inspector General who found the texts? Mueller must have known that this guy was a no-goodnik. I mean, after all, Mueller's been hiring no-goodniks on his staff left. Sir, you have to be a complete partisan hack with an IQ of -11 to see that Mueller's staff is left-wing Democrat, particularly his deputy, but not exclusively. And then you have the top FBI guy, who's another leftist. Does that concern you, sir?
Well, I know Mueller and Comey.
Of course it doesn't. Goodbye. What can I say? I mean, it's really quite preposterous. I don't even have to debate this. Well, maybe we'll have a right-wing Republican FBI agent investigate him, or we'll send a right-wing IRS agent to do his tax returns. What do you think of that? Well, I mean, what do you mean? Ladies and gentlemen, we salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, and emergency personnel, and you, the real Americans, regular Americans. You're going to love Levin TV tonight, by the way, and I'll see you on the radio tomorrow. God bless.